How do you discover new music out of interest?
I mean, it's a mix
Obviously,
of
it's
things.
sensitive by the sounds of it, but
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I'm on the mailing list of like hundreds of PR people, so that I get every time a new song gets announced from an artist, I get an email about it. I get sent out the albums months in advance. But on top of that, I listen to quite a lot of radio, really. I do like digging around in shows in places like NTS and Worldwide and things like that. I follow individuals on, Insta and whatnot that I like their taste. I follow specific journalists. I have WhatsApp groups with friends where, like, on the first of every month, everyone shares their recommendations of things they've been digging and things like that. So it's a real combination of things, obviously on top of music journalism as well. So I try and keep it as sort of broad and open as possible, really. But yeah, I'm lucky that I get, because the thing is, as lucky as I am that I get sent all that music, most of that music comes from people who are already at a position where they can afford a PR person. And so I think you, as a journalist, it's really your responsibility to make sure that you're not just getting involved at that point and that you want to, get under the surface a little bit and make sure you're finding stuff from people who maybe, aren't in a position to hire a PR person.
yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? Like, I don't know, I'm not massively involved with new music or anything, but it does feel like new bands without the money would struggle more these
Yeah, I
days. I
mean,
don't know.
I think the whole Cruise Beckham thing's been really fascinating because
Yeah, it's mental. Yeah,
it's just like it's been the most blatant example of someone just buying their way into the music industry. Like the guy's got the same PR person. I think, don't quote me on it because I need to remember off the top of my head. But there's like Oasis and people like that, right? I'm pretty sure he's with Doorbell, who do like massive, massive PR company. And it's like, and he's getting reviewed, like, and the shows are getting reviewed in like loads of major publications, including The Guardian. And it's like most bands of that size, like that's years and years and years of work, right? That's and it's real, and it just seems to be like accepted like with a bit of a shrug. And I know it's like an extreme example. Not everyone is David Beckham's son, and so there's going to be a novelty or a curiosity attached to it. But I wish there was a bit more pushback on stuff like that because it's just like we're just allowing people to buy their way into this kind of stuff, and it's shit. So yeah, stuff like that really winds me up, and it's infuriating because it's like rather than just why publish a review of someone who's going to get loads of press anyway because they've just bought it, and they're literally the only reason why they're getting this coverage is because of who their dad is. Like, just take a punt on someone else who hasn't got any of the means to do that, and like give them some coverage or whatever. I'd like to see a little bit more. I think a lot of established publications tend to hedge their bets a little bit and they wait for younger groups to break through and see if they've had some success and then sort of cover. I wish they would sort of, I wish they wouldn't do that as much and get in at ground level a little bit more. Like, it's fine if you recommend a band and they turn out to be shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm always a little bit anti like nostalgia of like NME of the 70s and 80s and stuff because you go back and you read that and there's loads of sexism and racism and homophobia and all this kind of stuff, and it's not all like golden period. But one thing that I would say that it's good for, given it was a weekly publication, go back and look through the covers, and there'll be artists where it's like, who the hell is that? But it's like editors felt passionately enough about this new group that's like, no, we're gonna put them on the cover, we love them, kind of thing, and they turn out to be nothing, and that's fine. I don't feel like I see enough of that taking place at the moment. And I'd like that. So yeah, that side of things infuriates me, I have to say.
yeah, and like the festival slots that Cruise Beckham's getting just seems bizarre as well.
Well,
But
yeah, because he can afford a shit hot booking agent in the same way he
yeah,
can
yeah,
afford a shit hot PR person and manager and all these things. It's like it's literally just buying your way in, and it's like, and I'm only really highlighting him because he's a most public example of that. But that's taking place on more micro levels, like all the time. I won't name the band, but I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day who's like a really experienced tour manager, and he was talking about this band who they're just doing it all on like their parents' dime, and they're like, he was talking like the money they're losing on these tours is like substantial because they're like hiring drivers to get to the venue. So they're basically like playing at rock stars, right? And so they were hiring dancers and trying to bring in pyrotechnics for small venues and all this stuff, and like just operating at like an absolutely gargantuan loss just because it was just a status thing. It was a little plaything that they could do because it was all being funded. And yeah, it's all that stuff drives me nuts, and I'd like to see more pushback against it. I'd like to see more transparency on it. Whether that changes anything, I don't know, but yeah, it's a problem. It's a massive problem, and I don't see how it's going to get better at the moment.
What do you make of the whole geese thing? Obviously, that's been a bit of a big thing recently.
I haven't actually read that PsyOps article in Wired because I went to read it the other day and I'd hit my free articles for the month limit. So I have to wait until the end. So I haven't read that particular article, so I can't speak to it specifically. But they've hired some big firm to generate buzz and fans for them and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's like using like different AI techniques to like, or get themselves in the algorithm or something. But
Yeah, I mean, I'd need to have read the article in detail to comment on it properly, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Although again, I mean, it's sort of it it is interesting stuff like that. I think it's probably more common than people maybe
hmm.
realize. But then again, it's a weird one with geese because it's similar accusations were put at the monkeys, right, which I kind of touch at in the book, right? Like obviously the technology's changed and the culture's changed, but they were accused of before the term was a thing of being an industry plant to some degree, right? Of being this sort of generated by false buzz and people being hired to go out and speak about, promote them on the streets, on forums, and all this kind of thing. And it's like I think those tactics can go on and take place, but at the end of it, there still has to. I don't think geese have just become successful because of those things. I don't think. I think enough people have genuinely, sincerely loved that record. People are quite evangelical about him, and I don't think it's just because they've been that heavily manipulated by social media. But I don't know. I probably ought to not comment on this too much really because I haven't read that article, so I'm still waiting to dig into that a little bit more. But it's certainly curious of where we're at culturally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you say with like the cutting through thing as well, like cutting through the noise. Like even good bands are gonna have to find a way to do that if you've not got like the taste makers, as you say, in place like they used to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, also as well, it's like it is a tricky time for stuff like that because even all these, I don't even know if you'd call them influencers really. And again, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of people who have sort of popped up now who just film themselves on Insta and hey, I love this record and stuff. A lot of them are under payola from record labels, and there's no, they're being
Mm.
paid to tell you that they like this record, which whether you have a problem with it or not is irrelevant really, but I think there should be some transparency there in the same way that we've put in place, like if it's a paid partnership or it's an ad on your post, you have to put that right. But they haven't seemed to have navigated this new world where people are sort of recommending things based on taste. So, some of those people that you're following that you're thinking that you've built up this rapport with and relationship with and sort of trusting their taste, some of which it's just, they're just being paid to sort of tell you that. So I think, yeah, I'd really like to see greater transparency with this kind of stuff because yeah, it's all well and good sort of saying that, me sort of saying, people like Geese because it's still good music. But I don't know, if you've managed to infiltrate mass audiences to get it on their radar in the first place, then, you're already at a massive advantage, aren't you? So, yeah, I think there's some sort of broken elements to the system at the moment. I'm not necessarily broken, but a bit shady and a bit secretive, and yeah, it's an interesting time.